Net Television proudly presents America's favorite kid show host, Rainbow Randolph.
So you'll make sure my boy dances up front, right? Gets to sit in the chair?
You want your little booger eater on my show?
Meet Randolph Smiley. He once was rich. He once was famous. And he once was sane.
Rainbow Randolph is the man. Yes, oh yes, he is.
They kicked me out of the corporate penthouse. I'm homeless.
I can assure you, this network cannot survive another Rainbow Randolph.
Don't touch me! I'm a shot! Salmonella!
Sir, it is my personal mission to find a satisfactory replacement. Get me Smoochy.
You're telling me that Kidnet is finally ready to pursue a show of Smoochy caliber?
Hey, it's Smoochy! Come on!
Hello, New Jersey! Despise you. I loathe you!
Now,
Waiter! My body was barely cooled and you went to work for the Rhino.
I gotta eat, don't I?
the only way to take back his career is to take down his replacement. In this jungle,
Going on safari. Safari.
hunting season
What's this? Trust me, Sheldon. It's a handy accessory to have in this business.
never ends.
Carry him back now and forever! What's up?
Robin Williams, Edward Norton, Danny DeVito, Catherine Keener.
What does it all mean?
Death to Smoochy.
Okay, welcome to Movie Night Extravaganza. That one scene fucking cracks me up that's in there where it's the guy going, save the rhino, and Robin Williams tackles him and starts hitting him on the ground, and he's like, no, save Rainbow Randolph, save Randolph.
Yeah, it's such a good movie, and it's really an interesting. It's interesting in so many ways. It really allows you to get into a lot of interesting discussion. So, I mean, just to set the scene, I chose the movie, so I mean, this is my choice. But it comes out in February 2002, so it's a few months after 9/11, and it's sort of in this moment. It's not only a few months after 9/11; it's a New York movie, a very New York movie, right after 9/11.
With a shot of the World Trade Center in it.
Yes, like very chosen shot. But it's interesting for a lot of ways. I'll just throw them out there, and then we could talk about whichever one you guys find interesting. One, it's part of this.
So let me introduce everyone first. Sorry.
Dan Bessner taking over the show like he's John Barber over here.
Yeah, I have to go, so I wanted to give as much good content as possible. Sorry, yes.
All right. Well, I'll do this.
We'll make it quick.
It's episode 69. Nice. You know what I mean? I am joined by Jay Underworld, co-host, artist, mascot of the show, really.
Pretty much.
Conan Neutron, a Protonic Reversal, and Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends. Musician, podcaster, and of course,
Get it.
And Randy Rainbow, Randolph Rainbow, coat enthusiast.
Rainbow Neutron. It's actually a funny name for a kid show host. And of course,
dress for the job you want. Yeah.
Yes.
Daniel Bessner, co-host of American Prestige Podcast, a podcast I've been listening to during this Russia-Ukraine crisis way too fucking much. Like literally every time you guys post an episode. And contributing editor Jacobin, also a fellow at the Quincy Institute, right? I didn't write that down, but
Quincy
yeah.
Institute, yes, precisely.
All right, so you can go ahead.
Yeah, so sorry. So I had a little monologue prepared, and I wanted to throw some ideas out on the table. So one, it's interesting comedically because it's sort of in this transitional moment, pre-Judd Apatow but post Farrelly Brothers, where comedy is in this really sort of weird. There's not a gigantic person who's on the scene. A similar comedy from around the same time, which actually has a relatively similar tone and is also in New York movies, Zoolander. So we could talk about it in sort of this weird transitional comedic moment. It is also part of that sort of second career that Robin Williams had, where he would do a 1 hour photo, or I don't know if you guys know World's Greatest Dad by Bobcat Goldthwait, which is one of the darkest movies I've ever seen.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it,
American Dreams with a Z.
Yes, extremely dark. Yeah, and starring Robin Williams, and then you have this movie, and then it's also in one of the last. Not last, I shouldn't say that, but one of the great New York movies of the 2000s, and it's also one of Danny DeVito's only directorial outings. So there's a lot we could talk about, but I just wanted to raise. That's why I chose it. It's a very interesting movie.
He also directed "Throw Mama Off the Train," right? That was him. That
I believe so.
Yeah.
I think he might have only directed those two.
And I think he did Matilda, or he did a kids movie.
Matilda?
This isn't
I'm
the
pretty
kids
sure
movie.
it's
This is the kids movie he did.
This is not the kids movie he did. But no, he actually did a little.
He's done a bunch.
And I think we had that on DVD whenever I was a kid. When my kids were small. I'm sorry. We didn't have DVDs when I was a kid.
But yeah, I wanted to play this. It's a couple minutes, but I wanted to play just to give context to what you're saying about this kind of being in that time space, like to give it a perfect encapsulation, I think, of where we are in history when this movie comes out. I have Robin Williams talking to David Letterman doing promo for this, and he starts off with like a good 2 minutes that I had to include of Bush Cheney jokes. So I felt like this was the perfect starting clip, and then I cut the part where he talks about he barely talks about the movie at all. He's just like yeah, good movie, yeah, good, all right. Wants to talk about anything else, I guess.
How do you think things are going? Because before the country was attacked, everybody was sort of making fun of Cheney and Bush and so forth, and then because of the attack, everybody sort of rallied behind them, right, and needed to demonstrate support. How do you think things are going now?
I think we're up to Bush 2.0, which is good. It came with certain problems in the word processor. Remember that?
Yeah.
Will not let this country be taken hostile. Hostage. I've noticed that George doesn't speak while Cheney's drinking water. Check that out. There's been some fun things like W waving at Stevie Wonder. That was even Stevie's going, oh man, this can't be true. The thing that frightens me the most is, he almost died from the pretzel. At that point,
that's right. Yeah.
At that point, Secret Service is going, game's over, man. Gilligan's down. Gilligan's down. And even his dog, he had the dogs. Yeah. Even his own dogs were licking him for the salt. It's like, you need a dog like Lassie to go. What's wrong, Lassie? What else? What's wrong, Les? Mr. Cheney's meeting with the Enron people? We're gonna have to put you down, girl.
How about the Enron thing? You know anything about that? It don't make any sense to me. I don't know what's going on.
Oh, no, it's that kind of the Bank of Bermuda Triangle, Oh, suddenly your finances disappear. Find your money, there's your money, there's your money. Oh, Kenny boy, the feds are coming. Invested on a Monday and the money's gone. Enron, run, Enron, run. Wow. Woo!
And Osama bin Laden, the thing today was that there was a newspaper in Great Britain gets an email from the guy.
From Osama?
Well, that's
or Sam.com? I think someone was on your show saying how difficult it is to find a 6'5" Arab on dialysis.
Yeah.
Just look for someone connected to the luggage, number one. Or maybe a camel dragging a little cart.
Wow, that is pure untapped Robin Williams.
It gets into it gets into kind of offensive territory after that, where he's making a lot of Arab jokes.
Extremely unwoke. Yeah, it's very of its moment. Post 9/11 racism.
Yeah, exactly.
I was going to make a very unfortunate joke, so never mind. I'm not even going to say that because that's just
you're gunning to be the next Robin Williams.
I was just going to say that clip should come with the Yeah Yeahs record. Go ahead.
No, so I wanted to, as you cue this up, I wanted to, play that because I think that's a perfect encapsulation of where America was during the time this movie came out. I actually had totally forgotten about Bush choking on the pretzel too, which is kind of funny. But I think that, Matt Crispin's talked about this a lot on Chapo, where 9/11 was kind of and I think you did too. I listened to Hinge Points when you guys did the one on 9/11, and
I think
like,
the idea you're going to say is actually my idea, but I wasn't going to correct you.
Oh, all right. Well, then your idea that the Enron scandal, right? Like that, seemed like it was going to kind of bring down the Bush administration or people in the Bush administration in its first days, kind of gets completely overshadowed by by 9/11 happening, and then Bush's his approval rating kind of soaring to like 90%. When number one, he had started as kind of, it was like dead heat between Bush and Gore, as everybody knows. Like that's like the election that may or may not have kind of gotten stolen. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like that moment with the kind of unpopular president who all of a sudden jumps to this 90%, and it's very hard to make fun of him during that time period. I think by 2002, when this when Death To Smoochy comes out and they're doing this like the press for it or whatever, I think you could just start to make fun of Bush again, and people were just starting to remember Enron. But like Enron was now overshadowed completely by the race to war and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, the only one who lost their job because of Enron was Gray Davis, frankly, which that's part of. Talk to me about the rolling blackmail. Not on this show right now, but like talk to me about it sometime. I'll tell you all about it because I was right there for it. But it is kind of crazy to think about, right? That like Jon Stewart was on the upswing, but not quite at the level of kind of like, oh, he's the only truth teller of our time, that he like later had ascribed to him with the Daily Show in its classic form.
Yeah. So Danny, I just wanted to hear, if you have like something else prepared, I just wanted to cue that up because, as history guy number one, I thought that was really interesting.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting movie, particularly because I'm from New York. Are any of you guys from New York?
I'm in New York right now.
I'm from Oakland. There too. Oh,
nice. We moved upstate. I mean, I'm an hour and a half from the city, but we moved upstate from Brooklyn. Like I think 2 years before 9/11 happened.
But yeah, so I was like a full adult, not full adult, I guess I was 16 in New York, but it was very like a moment where New York was very much put in a positive light. You had all this pro police, pro fire department. Everyone really loved Mayor Giuliani. It was a city that was traumatized in a genuine way with
America's mayor
photos. America's mayor, yeah, with all of these sort of photos all over the place of missing people, and everyone knew someone at least who knew someone who passed away or something. Everyone had their stories, and what's funny about this movie is like it's an extraordinarily dark take on New York, and it's also a take on a New York that was already by 9/11 disappearing, particularly with the mobsters, and the mobsters having a say in corporate goings on. This is a New York that really would disappear with Michael Bloomberg and the financialization of the city. So it's one of my favorite New York movies, not only because it takes place in New York, but it also takes the outer boroughs seriously. I believe he's in the Coney Island methadone clinic at some point, and they go to the outer boroughs
with the ice show.
Yeah, exactly.
Funding
and they go to the outer boroughs throughout a lot of the movie. So I think it's actually an underappreciated New York movie. I just think it occurs at a really interesting place in the city's history.
Yeah. And I think it also occurs at a really interesting place in the history of kind of consumerism. And when I was watching this yesterday, because I watched it as a kid, when it first came out, my grandpa, I remember, had the VHS of it, and he was like kind of out, like his house was in the middle of nowhere in Maine. And
why did he have a VHS of this? What an interesting choice.
That's a very bizarre choice. Yeah.
Well, we would go to library sales and people would just give up their stuff, and there was like
right, and he'd get it for cheap. So yeah.
Somebody ordered off a Columbia House or something and didn't watch it and realized, oh, I didn't want this movie.
Yeah. So I didn't really register this at the time. I don't know if anyone could have really registered this. I mean, I watched it way too young. It just was there, and I was like,
I just can't believe that you said you watched it as a kid. And it's like, yeah, I was already touring by that point, so okay, yeah. But like, whatever. That's the first time this brought up.
So it hits at this moment of kind of the idea of like ethical consumerism, right? Like people are tired of consumerism throughout the 1980s and 1990s, and like the tech utopia had kind of failed by this point, and like the big .com bubble had burst, and like you kind of see that in the very beginning where he has the website, and he's like, oh, go to RandyRambo.com or RandyRandolph.com, and he's like, wow, RainbowRandolph.com. I keep thinking about. I hate that fucking. The first thing that pops into my head is Randy Rainbow, the fucking like sleeping with Cuomo guy that was like, but no. So RainbowRandolph.com, and he's like, it's not free. You know what I mean? Like putting that disclaimer on it. Like by that point, the internet had fully been embraced as consumer technology, no longer as like the utopian 90s vision of it,
which was huge and is almost never discussed. Like the fact that like the internet did not used to be a fucking mini mall.
Yeah,
to put it bluntly.
And so you kind of have that, and you also have at the same time, like, you know, things like, you know, soy dogs and gluten-free buns that you know, that Smoochy is obsessed with, right? Like the organic fair trade, like people wanting this idea that, you know, by buying things, they're being ethical, like ethical consumerism. And then you also have the dark side of, you know, decades of history, especially in New York City, but like, you know, where the mob was infiltrating stuff and everything had to be a product. And it didn't really matter. Like all the money was kind of seen as like, you know, being incredibly unethical. And they're, you know, they're selling kids caffeine, they're selling kids, which is fucked up that there's like a cola that they're selling to kids. Like, you know, but like none of this stuff is really registered. And then, because I don't think that you can ever say that somebody like Rainbow Randolph is kind
Randy Rhoads from Ozzy Osbourne's band. Is that who you're talking about? Yeah.
Listen, I got woken up by that fucking work outside again, so I'm not in my best state of mind. This morning I couldn't go back to sleep. So
Randy Travis, go on.
Rainbow Randolph is someone who is of that time where there is no idea of ethical consumerism. You're literally just selling shit to kids on TV, and you're kind of seeing the entrance of somebody like Smoochy. You know, that character that like actually wants to have a positive message. Things are so dark and so bleak at that point. In general, like all of this stuff has failed, and people kind of are like, well, listen, we're not going to stop buying products, but we want to feel good about the products we're buying. He's kind of a prototype of that.
Yeah,
it's like the health food store.
It's a very boomer versus Gen X conflict, and plays out as such. And like very Gen X, there's no solution is just to do corporations better. You know, it's the ultimate sort of solution. It's very capitalist realist in that sense, is that the only alternative is that like now the corporation supports Smoochy, or you just opt out like Nora at the end and become a figure skater or something along those lines.
Or you get the hot dog place to you know, to sell you soy dogs.
The vegan dog, or whatever it was. Yeah. In Coney Island.
When did Naomi Klein's book No Labels come out?
No logo.
Around then, I think 2000s.
Yeah,
it's around
early
that
2000s.
Yeah, it's kind of in the zeitgeist.
99, December 99
of this era.
Yeah.
Adbusters, you know, that was
Adbusters, all that.
And everyone's like, "What was that?" I'm like, "Well, they basically came up with Occupy before there was Occupy, and that's about the only thing I can really say about it as far as lasting intent." But like,
and
it was a good magazine.
WTO.
Yeah. I mean, it was good, and it was a literal magazine that you could hold in your hands. That was not a zine; it was a professionally published magazine that, you know, ultimately
which satired the culture too.
Yeah.
But starting, I guess, from the beginning of this, right?
Correct.
Like you have you know, Rainbow Randolph. I'm just gonna keep my notes in front of me.
So we had Randy Rhoads and Rainbow Salmon.
You have Rainbow Randolph. You know, showed from the very beginning. Talented. He's got a stage presence, as Michael Brooks would say about like Alex Jones. You know what I mean? Like he's a talented broadcaster, but a completely unethical person. And he has, you know, his entire course line of little people, which I have to believe that, like, you know, Danny DeVito thought was kind of hysterical because he's so, like, you know, he's like what, 4'5", 4'8", like.
Yeah, I think he's like 4'9". Yeah, I think they also like deliberately made Rainbow Randolph like super unwoke. Like there are a lot of like off kilter things that he said throughout the entire thing. They made him sort of like a strange guy, I think, on purpose. And I think sort of that was the whole vibe of the sort of this surrealistic thing, which is actually kind of interesting because who was that night, the guy in the UK, the children's TV show host who had been like a pedophile for decades?
Oh, fuck. Jimmy Savile.
Jimmy Savile. So this is kind of interesting because it kind of like,
I only know that because of John Oliver doing a whole thing on him.
Right. It kind of like foreshadows that, you know, sort of like it's such an interesting choice to make the world of children's TV hosts you know, sort of this seedy place. And obviously I think that's very 90s in a sense. It's a reaction to Barney, and that was like a big thing in the early 90s and mid 90s, and this sort of comes after. But there's a lot of really interesting choices, and it's just directed like nothing I've seen. It's like a German expressionist film.
It totally is.
1928. Yeah, it's really beautifully directed.
It's also weirdly satirizing like Goodfellas. Like they have the thing in the beginning where it's the dark red, like Scorsese did in Goodfellas, where you know they're digging in the thing. Like I have expected them to fucking bury he goes by Moochie, you know, at the end of it. But
Spinner Gavin.
Yeah,
right?
no, I have expected them to bury Spinner and then to see fucking Ray Liotta and Joe Pesci being like, hey, what do you want? The arm of the leg, like, or the arm of the wing, like when he throws up in Goodfellas. Like it's purposely, I think, shot with that kind of lens to it. And it
definitely pitched it as Goodfellas, but with children's TV show hosts.
Yeah,
there's no way that wasn't the pitch.
Well, and there also was this idea, especially with Mr. Rogers, of like, well, he can't all be wholesome. Like, what if he's a real, like, you know, jackass in real life, and like, you know, he wasn't. But like that's always was something that, you know, the entire time Mr. Rogers was around is always like, well, he can't be all good. You know, like everyone like almost wanted him to be like more like have a dark underbelly or something along those lines.
Although he did have a good sense of humor. Did you hear about that one time somebody put a blow up sex doll in the closet? So when he reached in for a sweater, they handed that to him, and he pulls it out during one of the takes, and just you know thought that was hilarious. And you know just went on after that.
Well, there's that moment where he testified for PBS in front of Congress, and like ends up convincing a bunch of like Republican congressmen that wanted to strip them of their funding. That like no, like PBS is an actual resource that like we need, and he like passionately displayed that. No, so
what I was actually going to say before Andy brought that sex doll story up is that there's also the Michel Gondry Jim Carrey vehicle where it's sort of like, oh, what if Mr. Rogers but sad. But it's good, like it's well done, but like I think that there is a certain fascination between like a character like that, right? And again, I think you're right. Barney is like, you know, Barney was like, believe me, Barney was ubiquitous around that time. It was pretty hard to avoid even if you didn't have kids. But like the idea of like taking the pastiche of both of these and like having it be like, oh, these are like rivals, and like, you know, they both kind of suck. You know, or one of the guys that is in here kind of sucks, and one of the guys is kind of more on the corruption train, like of like, you know, oh, is he going to be able to stick to his ideals, blah blah blah. And you know, it's a heady concept for a movie ostensibly about children's TV show hosts. You know?
Yeah, well, I mean, no matter what, right? There's always somebody behind it's like a mask, and there's always somebody behind the mask. And you know, growing up with people like Mr. Rogers or like Sesame Street, where you kind of don't know who the fuck you're actually looking at, like, you know, it's puppeteers, but I mean, Jim Henson was kind of seemed like actually way cooler than what I thought he was going to be like as a kid. Like we watched him talking about Dark Crystal. We watched him talking about Labyrinth.
All those Dark Crystal and like Labyrinth extras are like fantastic, especially the Dark Crystal ones. It's sort of like, wow, I just guys watch a movie of them making this movie because it's insane.
So
yeah, he was really super talented. And I mean, just in relation to what everyone was saying, like the color palette of this movie is really beautiful. It really is a pastiche in a lot of ways. I think Conan hit the nail on the head, because in some sense it's filmed like a noir, but it's not really structured like a noir. There's no like PI equivalent who goes into different areas and goes into weird places, sort of the underbelly of the city. So it's like just really interesting.
Or not killed off, either killed off or you know, that kind of person's already been paid off. Like that, they no longer exist in this world. Like it's
right.
like it's a post noir kind of like nobody really.
There's no PIs, really. Yeah, and Smoochy doesn't really act as the PI. Neither does Nora.
I like the Spinner character. I realized today that he was Jackie Aprile in The Sopranos. I was trying to.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
But like he's not played. I mean, because obviously, you know, boxers have been hit in the head so many fucking times that, like, you know, by the time they like it's well documented by this point. Like by the time you know,
he has CTE effectively. You know, I mean, that's what he's supposed to have. Yeah, I mean, they don't call it that, but yeah.
So you know, it's interesting though that they make him sweet and they make him kind of childlike. And not like
he's one of the heroes.
Yeah,
you know, he's one of the only uncynical characters in the entire thing, which is really interesting, and it is an interesting choice that they made. I think him and maybe Angelo are really the only good quote unquote good guys. I mean, even and Angelo has to betray Randy for, because they threatened him, but he's like ultimately a good guy, and I think that's an interesting choice made by Devito and the screenwriter.
Yeah, and the other thing though is Smoochy, like that character, like Sheldon. I keep trying to remember the guy's name. Sheldon kind of takes over from from Rainbow Randolph, and you can tell that he has had these long-standing relationships with all these people within both people like Angelo, but also Jon Stewart's Frank, Marion Frank Stipe, I think is his name. So that character, like they've had a long-standing relationship, and there's the scene where they're in the car together, and he's listing off like it is literally just like the scene with Paulie and fucking Goodfellas, where he gives them the thing of hold on, I wrote down the list of what he gives them, but it's like it's after Sheldon's already taken over, and he gives them the thing, and he's like, oh, there's I'm trying to remember, he's like there's peanuts that are what's the Kahlua peanuts or something. There's these lotions in it that that they give away with all these things in like hotels or whatever, and disposable cameras. And he's like, now I got to turn my back on you, which is not something that was going to help. None of those things are going to help that guy who's now homeless and has been kicked out of a penthouse apartment. So it's like that scene, but he can't even give him like money. He can't even lend him anything. Like people are so greedy and corrupt and everything in this world. He doesn't even get like here's $600. Now I got to turn my back on you. He gets like, here's some lotion and some
disposable cameras, which were a real thing. Those were a valuable commodity around then. Trust me. But yeah, like it's one. And and how does Robin Williams' character like answer him back? You know what you can do with the lotion or something along those lines. Good opportunity for some ribald humor, of course. But
yeah, no, he's like, what you can do with that lotion? Jerk off.
Yeah, there's a lot of penis humor in this.
Sure
movie.
Is. More than I remembered. I remember there being a lot.
But that's all rocket ships, though.
Yeah, there's no penises. There's only rocket ships.
Only rocket ships.
That scene fucking cracks me up, and I can't see anybody but Robin Williams playing that character. Like, there's no way to make that character kind of endearing and like.
Yeah,
kind of
it's vulnerable. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such an evil character until the very, very end. He's just like horrible, selfish, betraying children, betraying everyone. But like, there's you realize with Williams that he is just in such pain. And I think that's where Robin Williams, I don't love him necessarily as a serious actor, except when he's playing someone with like an incredible amount of pain. And I guess basically playing the sad clown. I don't think he does like psychotic that well. I think he does deeply, deeply hurt, like in this and Good Will Hunting. He's really good at that. And this is
no love for 1 hour photo. No,
I think it's a bit slow. Personally,
also Patch Adams.
Hey, so it's the 1 hour photos. Rarely 1 hour. Anyway,
that is true.
There's also Patch Adams, which is a movie that was. I mean,
that's like maudlin in this. Like that's a bit more like he also had that, and that, like in Mrs. Doubtfire, he has sort of a maudlin streak.
Yeah,
which I don't love.
But in this, he's kind of in full form, and he puts that's like one of the I think this is the most classic scene in it. He puts the penis cookie in the thing to frame him, right? And it's not something that's going to hurt him. Like this world is just petty and stupid and full of like these weird children's show hosts that are like almost like cartoon characters or almost like Batman villains in a way, like from the original 60s Batman. Like these just strange fucking people, all of them.
Yeah.
And he puts the penis cookie in the thing and he's like, oh, and then so he's like so Sheldon as this kind of pure character, this pure most integral character, right? Like having integrity above all, is able to like kind of pull off the showmanship when the kids are all looking at him and do the rocket ship line. And then it's just so funny to see Rainbow Randolph run out and go, what are you, blind? It's a cock and balls, it's a big stiffy, a willy, a weenie, a one-eyed wonder weenie. And he's like, so he just shoots off that list, and I just can't see anybody but Rob Williams being able to do that. Like,
yeah, that's his classic thing.
Yeah. Or a group of anons on Twitter, maybe. Yeah.
I was saying before we started to Conan that this movie is like a house of cards. Like every single piece is there, and if you remove anything, this movie just wouldn't work. I mean, it's so close to not working that I understand it still they pull it off at the end, like it hits all the right notes, or there's other comedies like Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar, for example, which are like legit funny. And if you change out something in that movie, it's still going to work because it's just such a strong film. This one, even though because it's such a strange concept, not to say a Barb and Star isn't, but that's a whole other.
It's a pretty it's
a weird movie. It's great though.
I love it too, but it is bizarre. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another movie that kind of tackles.
But I was saying to that, Forrest, if I can be on the show for a second, is that I was arguing the other side of it, that it's like one step or two away from actually being like an all-time classic. Like it's really good. It's really good, but it's like there's something. It's like I don't know what. Like I'm not gonna sit here and analyze it, but it's real close to being like an all-timer. But it's not quite there. But it is good. This is a very good movie.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's something in the performances and the writing. I think like there's some weak links. I don't think Jon Stewart's particularly good, and that's a pretty important character. I think that
and that's where the heat was at the time. Everyone was like, "Oh, Jon Stewart's doing a movie. Oh my God, Jon Stewart's doing a movie. Wow, wow, wow!" And it's sort of like, "Oh, all right."
Yeah, he's not great in that role. I don't think he's a very particular. I mean, he's not. I not a huge fan of his acting. But I think that. Yeah, the writing is probably a little flabby as well. It probably goes on 10, 15 minutes too long. They probably could have cut a little of it, just sort of shortened a bit of the scene, a bunch of the scenes. But yeah, I'd say it's like an 8, which is pretty high.
There's
extended scene of the Nazi rally,
Yeah, that
was it throws a lot of things at you that could go in a lot of different directions. Like, I mean, the idea of kind of, and it kind of just brushes over them. Like the idea that there's like, kids show groupies gets touched on at the end of it for that one second. Like someone who would be like fully attracted to like children's television characters.
Yeah, it would almost like it's ironically a movie that actually, could be a bit longer. It would make a good TV show. I could see setting a season in the world of Death to Smoochy and making it a real noir.
Yeah.
I think that would be a really cool idea. It's almost like it's both too long and too short.
But also we watched Buckaroo Banzai last year, and Buckaroo Banzai was such like the way it was done so deadpan. They're able to throw like really crazy things at you, and it's okay that you missed it. And this one, it just almost seems like the tone isn't quite right for some of those jokes, like the groupie joke. If it was done more deadpan, that would be a little different.
Yeah, it's a weird mix. It's like extremely dark but extremely bright, which is something that you don't often see. And I mean, Devito is just really talented. I don't think he's done a movie in like 20 years, but he's such a good director.
No, he's done a bunch. Actually, I looked up on IMDb. He's been directing up. Last film that he did came out in 2016. So he's.
I'm totally wrung.
He's done a lot of TV. So let's be fair on that part. But he's in short films. But he's done quite a bit behind the camera. I was actually surprised how much.
What was the last film he directed? Do we know?
I can pull it up just real quickly.
Yeah, I'm curious.
It almost seems like his It's Always Sunny role as like Frank Reynolds could almost be like an offshoot of this. Like he takes off or whatever, and he needs to find somewhere to hide out, and he goes to Philadelphia to like his kids or whatever, and then It's Always Sunny kicks off from there. Like the characters are pretty fucking similar.
It's
a tie-in that nobody asked for.
Curmudgeons was his last film. I think it's a short film. Oh yeah, it's 16 minutes. So
it's pretty short.
Let's see here. But he did Hoffa and War of the Roses as well.
Yeah, I think his last major film might have been like 2003. I think he hasn't been doing it for a while.
Yeah, because there was Duplex, which was that year.
Right, that was a while ago. Yeah.
Let's see here. That is a short.
It's
like a bunch of shorts after that.
Look him up on the internet. He's all over it. So
well, he's a bunch of shorts over there. I actually had a question for everybody, starting with Danny. Is there a favorite scene or like a favorite, either a favorite scene or like a favorite kind of throwaway character or something, to kind of jump off this part of it? Because there's so much going on in this movie. It's hard to take it in a million different directions. So I'll ask you that.
I like the scene where Rainbow Randolph is like doing parkour around the city. I just think that's a really cool and well shot, and he's really good.
He calls the baby a tit nibbler, which is a fantastic line.
And he's so like degraded and ill, and he's just jumping around this. I just think that's a really cool juxtaposition and looks really pretty.
I didn't notice this until watching it again, but the dance he's doing on top of the thing is the dance that he was doing at the beginning. He's doing his opening act.
Oh, that's cool.
And but he's doing it like piece by piece, but you're looking at it from this really like degraded, homeless kind of perspective, where he's just doing that same dance on there, and you're like, oh, that's fucking weird. Like, it's a little bit weird that you're doing that. But he's kind of going back to that feeling, and that's when he's excited that Sheldon's been framed as a Nazi. He goes back to doing his dance because he's like trying to get, I think, the rhythm of it back because he thinks he's going to be hired again. Which, why wouldn't they just pick one of the other many children's show hosts that seem to exist?
There's one more. I think one of the funniest lines at that is one of my favorite lines in movie history is when Bucky Ding Dong is falling and his last words are, "I never saw Venice." That is I forgot about that. That was good. I always wanted a production company called Never Saw Venice Productions. It's so funny. It's such a good line, and it comes out of nowhere, but it's complete. It's like both fitting in character, but also undermining the character. Like you wouldn't expect a junkie to have want to see. It's just such a good. It personifies, embodies everything that's good about the movie.
He also has another line that he says. I can't. Oh, he's like, I will rise from the ashes like a phoenix, and then he says, or some other city in Arizona.
Vincent Chiavelli, right? He's such a real treasure.
Which weirdly enough, he was also in Buckaroo Banzai. So there you go.
He's been in a lot of stuff.
Yeah. He's fantastic.
He's
in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which we may eventually cover, maybe even this month. We'll find that out soon.
Yeah, this is our kind of madness month. March Madness.
Smoochy's good for that.
Yeah. So Conan, bringing you into the conversation, do you have a favorite moment or character that you can kind of?
Favorite moment, and I remember this, but I like it actually was even funnier to me is the accidental Nazi rally. I'm sorry, like it's like that's become more topical, if anything else, and it's brilliantly executed, like to the point that like when the flag goes down and it's just
like the Jimmy Dore live show, but.
Well, I mean, but it's like the perfect example of think about how cultures change now, right? People just like don't even care about nuance or context in any way, shape, or form either. It's like, oh, so and so's bad, go get him, get him, Butch. Everyone's doing the get him, Butch, and it's not like that came out of nowhere. It's just much more pronounced and quicker, and the mob has more power and more vibes, and the fact that like the information's wrong. Well, that doesn't matter so much as we got him. Okay.
They also they shoot it really interestingly, right? He's on stage and the lights in his eyes, and you really can't see anything. And like,
it looks like it legit like would be something that he would not be aware of that's happening, rather than like, oh sure, you didn't know. But like, it's also funny that when I noticed this time, there's like a few of the Nazis that are like trying not to break. They're like, oh yeah, I'll Smoochy.
And another thing that's like sort of an in-joke, when I was watching that, I lived like 5 minutes from JFK, and that's like an area that is not especially German. It's quite Jewish and Italian, and so I think it's also a little in-joke that they're having a huge Nazi rally at LA at JFK, and I think that's like a little New York in-joke, which I always appreciated.
Yeah. I think also, I mean, it's interesting. I always feel like in movies that have like neo-Nazi groups to think about how the like image of a neo-Nazi's changed. Like, in this it's the full swastika and the uniform. Like it's a similar.
They're dressed like brown shirts. Yeah.
Well, and it's done almost for comedic effect that way, in the same way like the Blues Brothers.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when I was.
Right? They're like openly wearing swastikas and whatnot. Obviously, it hits differently now.
Yeah, it was extreme. They were just like literally. It was in Germany.
Yeah, they swapped out the swastika with the Pepe frog.
Yeah, it was very sort of heightened, that scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's a lot of quotes in that scene that I find really funny. One of them is when because they're talking to him on TV and you can see, or I don't know if it's going on perfectly like in his head or if it's kind of in the future, but they're all interviewing him on TV and the guy says, "Is Smoochy a code for white power?" I thought that was a
actually the whole that whole section after it too is absolutely genius.
Yeah,
like it's pretty awesome because like if you listen to what's actually being said, it's obviously a critique of that particular side of the media and the get 'em Butch philosophy there as well.
Yeah. The other one I like is it was jackboots and swastikas and smooch Heil. But there's also a moment that's kind of juxtaposed in this when
Well, hold on. Is Andy going to get a turn or no?
No, I'm talking about this part of it though.
Okay, all right.
That same kind of mob following. This isn't what I wanted to bring up for my favorite. But when the mob is following Rainbow Randolph and they're going through, it's kind of the same kind of thing, right? Everybody's out to get him, and he's yelling, and he kind of takes it as, I think Sheldon's very embarrassed when it's the mob coming after him as a Nazi, but when it's like Rainbow Randolph, he's kind of standing up as if he's, I don't know, he's like very defiant, and he's like, yeah, well, fuck you guys too, pretty much, and someone hits him with an egg, and he's like, I've been shot or something, and then he's like,
salmonella.
He immediately yells out for salmonella. Yeah, that's a good moment.
But Andy, you got a scene to add to this?
Honestly, anything with Vincent Schiavelli showed up. Like all of his scenes were just great because just like the layers that they kept building on top of his character, like the fact that he smelled of urine when they first meet him because he was sleeping in the bus station. To like, I smoked all the opiate in Asia. Yeah,
they just make him like extreme.
That in the beginning. No, go ahead. Danny, go ahead.
No. I was done. I think like what's also cool. I'll just expand the point. What's also cool is just like this is a movie that really does go to extremes, and it just shows that sort of experimentation period between the Farrelly brothers and Apatow, when comedy was sort of grasping for what it was going to be. I think Zoolander is very, very similar and sort of like it's become a classic, but there's a lot of flab in there, and it's become a classic for particular reasons. I still think it's a really funny movie, but it's this liminal space for mainstream comedy, which is where you get a movie like Death to Smoochy greenlit, which would not happen today, maybe not even for Netflix.
Yeah. No, it's definitely the only way that they would do it is like to bring back the nostalgia. They would never do that as an original idea. They tease Buggy Ding Dong, who's that character. They tease him at the beginning, the first person they list, and John Stewart's character goes heroin mule. You're like, so you see that from the very beginning that like they have this list of weird children's show hosts that like they can kind of call on.
Yeah, they kind of rattle off all of their their negative attributes and like why they're like would be unfit for the position. And yeah, it's just a good little rat-a-tat bit to give that everything is terrible. Like these people you trust with your children's attention and minds are actually all perverts and freaks.
Yeah. My choice, I think, for this is that there's the scene that where Rainbow Randolph is going to pour the gasoline on himself, and he's in the
and, yeah.
And the girl walked up to him and is like, "What you doing, Rainbow Randolph?"
Yeah, and like he's like very moved by it, and then immediately, Smoochy's mentioned, and he's like, "Oh, back to being mad." Okay.
Yeah, and it's but it's
yeah,
like
they make him so venal, like he's such a venal character, like a literally very tough character to play, I would imagine, for an actor. How to find humanity in someone who's like so gleefully inhuman in a sense.
But it feels like it's a Robin Williams character. You know what I mean? Like it feels like he does that all the time, like that kind of strange, kind of almost in some weird way, almost like macabre, like this grotesque. I guess grotesque is the word. Like colorful, but like dark and sad and tragic and
like when he wrecks the TV and then
Did you guys hear me? I can hear you now, but I'm looking out for a second. Yeah.
Like when he like wrecks the TV, then it's like, oh yeah, that's not his. And like I said, what are you doing? It's got picture in picture.
Oh my god, that's so 2002.
A great moment. Yeah, I know. It could not be more 2000.
That and whenever Robin Williams walks in the room and goes, "What's up?"
Yeah, that's his.
Yeah, very classic.
Like children, there was an ad campaign on television where these guys would say that, and everybody was saying it in 2002. It was just,
it was a meme.
Yeah,
it was like a meme, one of the big memes.
Yes, it was.
They bring it back in Scary Movie, which is really funny, where they have the guy called up and he's like, "What's up?"
I think that movie's from 2000, so it was the height of What's Up.
So I guess since you only if you only have about like 10 minutes left, we should probably do letterbox one-liners.
So what's letterbox one-liners? Explain to me. What's the?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Daniel Bessner, because Letterboxd One-Liners is where the movies that we cover here on Movie Night Extravaganza. There's, of course, a site called Letterboxd. It's a place for film. It's a social media network for film lovers to talk at, with, and to each other. Bottom-up democracy. No Siskel's, no Eberts. Everyone gets their say. Everyone gets to talk about movies that they love, that they hate, that they just are baffled by, and they get to express that. One of which, the ways that is expressed that is used best for this show is in a one-liner format where we read them aloud and we react and or goof on them.
Yeah.
So these are the one-liners for Death to Smoochy. Is this the prequel to American History X?
Well, it would be a sequel.
Yeah,
I mean,
Elliot.
I was thinking about like how so many moments in this you could like just put the swastika on him. Like, there's the thing where he's shirtless and, you know, it turns Nora on or whatever. And I was thinking about, like, if those characters were the same character and he just has the swastika tattoo on him.
And all he did was anger management, apparently. That's all he went to therapy for.
Just score with different music. Yeah. Citizen Kane has nothing on this movie.
That's being sarcastic, but that guy's wrong. Citizen Kane and Death to Smoochy are in the same conversation.
No, all right. Shots fired, Isaac. All right.
Yeah, because truly, Venice is the rosebud of this movie.
It is.
Everyone's all Primal Fear this and Fight Club that. But where's Edward Norton's Oscar for managing to ice skate decently whilst dressed in a giant pink rhino costume?
These people are all haters, but this was a good performance. Edward Norton gave a good. I don't like him in everything either, but he gave a really good performance in here.
Well, I agree,
He's too self-serious. I think he goes wrong when he's too self-serious, and this is just not a movie you can be super self-serious about. And he's really good.
Let's talk about the tags here. 3-time Oscar nominee, but 4 times snubbed, and directed by Danny DeVito in Comic Sans. Heil Smoochy.
Yeah. Couldn't have said it better myself.
I did notice that everyone's giving these pretty good reviews. I think the lowest I saw was 3.5.
Yeah. I mean, it's not about the rating. It's about the comment, but sometimes it's about the rating.
No, but it's
especially when
interesting. Like,
Andrea's on.
people like it. You know, it's not getting like ones.
It's good. It's held up, I would say.
And it's the Siskel and Eberts, I think, that didn't like it. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
Professionalized critics.
This is what I wanted from Joker.
That's a good one.
V. Kruger, 5 stars.
Which Edward Norton would make a good
honestly a perfect. It would be a great Joker origin story because, like, you can see it as he gets disillusioned and like
yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
Rainbow
Robin
Randolph
Williams
is
almost
kinda
was
Joker,
Joker,
yeah.
believe it or not. It was between him and Jack Nicholson.
I thought it was the Riddler.
No, because he basically turned down the Riddler after the whole thing was that they didn't actually want him, but they used him to get Jack Nicholson, and he felt so used. So he's like, hey, you want to play the Riddler? And he's like, fuck you, no. And
fuck you, no.
and you know, that was the end of the whole discussion. But that was because of the way he was treated for the Batman movie, where they did actually get him to say yes to get Jack Nicholson to say yes.
That is information that you now know, everybody.
Stuck in my head now, it's stuck in yours.
Yeah, congratulations.
Andy explained.
Spirulina and almond butter topped soy hot dogs on gluten-free buns. Hard pass. This movie is good though. Alex,
but see, that's the thing though about like the ethical consumerism, right? Like, because everybody kind of knows what those things are now. Is kind of put in a lot of like early 2000s movies, like as like almost like oh, this is a character quirk. And I feel like we're at a point where this like ethical consumer health food store kind of thing, everybody kind of knows what gluten-free bread tastes like, or at least has heard about it. Like, it was trending for a while with everybody being like, oh, I'm gluten-free, you know, I have celiacs or whatever. And I mean, whether they did or not, like everybody knows what that is now. And I feel like in this, it's kind of something weird, like something quirky that,
Moving Extravaganza brought to you by the American beef industry, everybody.
I also like the fact that he's putting almond butter on a hot dog. Like what the hell?
It's like Weird Al. But didn't Weird Al his was hot dog and a Twinkie and peanut butter, right?
Yeah.
That sounds right.
Yeah, that sounds right.
But yeah, the other line that I really like is he goes, oh, you know, whatever. Oh, he goes like caffeine and something else. He's like, that's not good for your chi. And he goes, Ron Williams' line is like, oh, I've never tried Korean food, but you know, next time, or something, or thanks for the information or something. It's like a weird.
Danny DeVito said, "Fuck them kids," and honestly, what a fucking legend.
Is that a reference to something? Is that from It's Always Sunny?
I think it's more just a general ethos, right? Like,
no, Danny DeVito seems to like kids. He seems to like young people.
There's that Michael Jordan thing where he's like, "Fuck them kids" or whatever.
Yeah,
I don't think he ever had any of his own, but he really did love, like, you know, working on Matilda back in the day.
I think he has kids.
Actually, Natalie, if that is your real name.
Yeah, he has kids.
He has a grandkid. That's the reason that he got involved with It's Always Sunny is because his granddaughter was like, "Hey, I love It's Always Sunny," and he's like, "All right, I guess I'll
check it out."
Okay, I missed that. I you know what? Now that I think about it, Rhea Perlman was like pregnant during Cheers, so like of course he has kids.
Did he ever guest on Cheers?
You know, I don't know.
He
Let's get our
must
fact
have.
checkers
Remember.
on that. Yeah, I don't know.
I can't imagine he didn't.
But Smoochy, the only four emotions I feel are hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. AKA halt. Get away with that one.
That's so dark. I love this movie.
I was only going to give this 4 stars, but then that ending credit sequence happened.
It is a good credit sequence that 40-year-old virgin took, I might add.
Yep, 100%. And 40-year-old virgin got all the fame. Nobody gave it to Death To Smoochy.
I'm going to tweet that. That was a good observation, me.
20 years later, and I'm still trying to get sketchy hot dog places to carry gluten-free buns.
Not in Brooklyn, though.
Exactly.
They all fucking do in Brooklyn. Anywhere you go in Brooklyn, I guarantee you, if they don't have gluten-free buns, they're out of business. That's the.
He was not in Cheers, but he was in My Little Pony the movie. The fuck.
Oh, interesting. I'm
Oh,
surprised
yeah.
he never ever guested on Cheers as his taxi character.
Was that the one directed by Ridley Scott? Anyway,
Cheers,
those are the
yeah.
Letterboxd one-liners for Death To Smoochy, everybody. Letterboxd, place for film. Go follow the show. Movie Night Extravaganza. That's Forrest over there. I, of course, am Conan Neutron. You can follow me there. J. Andrew World's also on there, as are many of the lovely feature guests on the show, but not Daniel Bessner, who barely knew what it was. But that's okay. We love having him on nonetheless. Letterboxd, place for film. Andy,
Yeah,
take it away.
you're on Letterboxd though. I've like.
Yeah, I am. I joined it like January 2nd, and I haven't been on since. But I need to get back. It was fun.
Yes,
It was very
and
fun.
while you're here watching this video, please subscribe.
We should
If
change
you
the
are a Amazon Prime customer, you can subscribe for free. That helps us out great. Doesn't cost you anything. If you're watching us on YouTube, do all the YouTube things. So hit the bell, hit the like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. And we have a Patreon. Hit us up on Patreon, where we will put out after parties, which we're definitely not doing for this one. I think,
My after party's gonna be
I think our next after party we're talking about is for Heavenly Creatures later this month. So stay tuned for that.
That should be good.
Yeah.
It's not
All
just
right.
dudes in that
Thanks,
show either.
thanks.
Which is also nice.
Thanks, Andy. To try to get Danny off, on time.
Whoa! What do you do on your own time? Is your business anyway?
No, but jerk off. No, no. But we do kind of a final thoughts thing where you can kind of add whatever we didn't get to, or anything you want to elaborate on, or anything like that.
Sure. Should I start?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Danny DeVito should direct more movies, and more people should see this movie. It holds up pretty well. And 2 thumbs up, 10 woofs.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us.
Do you guys have a rating system?
Not really.
Oh, you should. That's like sitting there. You definitely have to rate it, and then someone
can't-
could like keep track.
Well, I mean, technically
Always
speaking,
Letterboxd,
it's whatever Force puts on Letterboxd, but that's just his opinion, man.
Yeah, no, I feel like you guys should have like your own like two aliens or something. Make something up that could work. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
No, that would be that's a smart idea. And then
It's sitting there for you.
But yeah, just to make sure that you get to your dinner on time.
Thanks,
and
guys.
stuff.
Much appreciated.
To plug your show, American Prestige Podcast. really, really amazing. I think you guys do Saturdays and lately just whenever kind of something breaks out.
Generally we do the free up on Fridays and then we do the bonus episode on Saturdays. So your weekend is occupied with my dumb voice.
So when you don't want to hear about movies, you want to hear about the horrifying acts of war being committed in Eastern Europe. That is the podcast for you.
It's a real blast.
And honestly, it's a real fun show. Despite the heavy subject, Danny and Derek really do bring make it listenable and enjoyable. And I also highly recommend it to people. So.
Oh, thanks, guys. I really do appreciate that. Thank you so much for listening.
And it's nice to talk to you somewhere that isn't Twitter, my dude.
Yeah, nice to meet you, Conan. Yeah, I think this is our first time meeting.
Which is kind of crazy considering how much we've talked over the years. But
yeah, it's wild. And again, guys, sorry, I didn't want to reschedule, but I do have to run.
No, it's all right. If you want to do something down the line, we can.
Let's do something.
You're actually contractually obligated to come on.
Yeah.
Again now.
Let's do something in May or June.
Okay.
My quarter is wrapping up.
Sounds great.
All right, boys. Catch you later.
Thanks so much.
No problem.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. I think
We got him out of there a minute early. That's like the first time that's ever happened. I was really
it's definitely the first time it's ever happened on this show. Yeah, for sure, 100%.
So I have
he's gonna be out an hour. I'm like, oh, we're never gonna make it. There's no chance.
We're
gonna still be doing introductions in an hour. Are you fucking kidding me? You've seen this show?
I have a clip. I have two clips, but I'll play the first one.
I think we're gonna be joined by Erica after that. So
yeah. So and I also want to get up and go to the bathroom and just stretch.
See your dog because you miss Audrey.
Yeah. So this is 2.5 minutes, so it's not very long, but this is some of the behind the scenes like randomness that happened. And I found that there's like a 7-minute. I cut it up a little bit, and it's not the whole thing, but there's a 7-minute short that they included on the DVD that's just random like extras. And for this movie, I feel like I wouldn't normally do that. I'd find something more related to it, but it's like really fun to watch this many like talented comedians kind of just spitball.
I mean, I remember I was sitting with Danny and I'd say, Danny, what's my character? He said, I don't know. You're fucking playing it.
You know what I do for fun? Put a scorpion in my underwear and smack it with a hammer.
I'm going to end up carrying Prosky. I can just feel it.
Squeaky fucking clean.
I think this is a lovely look for spring. It's sort of natural and yet supernatural.
You okay?
It depends on your definition.
This is Buggy. This is the guy that's playing.
Oh.
You say a 36-year-old man dressed as a rhino? I'm fine.
The junkie.
Where the hell is my cock? No. Who wants the first cookie?
Danny hasn't seen these.
Cookie, give him a cookie.
A little present.
Oh.
Here's cookie number 2.
I don't know that one.
It's
Much lumpier. That's good.
Whoa. It's a rocket ship.
Oh.
Action.
Oh.
Action.
Even John Wayne says couscous, and all of a sudden you're going, all right. Well, what I'm going to make tonight is couscous.
As well as hundreds of
Hi, you. Hey, you!
Action. Let go, me Buggy.
I never saw
Action.
Gotta love it. Classic New York, folks.
This is very at the beginning, not beginning, but this is towards like the when CGI and what's going on.
Hey,
Suddenly a wild Erica appears.
Sometimes you can catch us, catch glimpses of us as we. I don't know. I wouldn't finish that. Hi. Sorry, it's been a long day. I got up at 4 a.m.
Jeez.
Yeah. How are you
It's
guys
like
doing?
bedtime.
I know, right? I was like, that's like you're just basically not even sleeping at that point.
Whoa, you're telling me this is 4 a.m.? Jesus.
Yeah.
There's only okay.
Yeah.
There's a 4 a.m. now?
It was at 4 a.m. Turns out I can attest to it now.
Like they have like the F4 and then the F5 planes. There's a 4 a.m. now. What are they gonna come up with next? A 5 a.m. We can't let China get the secrets of our 5 a.m.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I wish that joke could come up when Bessner was on, but anyway.
We're gonna like have all our best bits after he leaves.
That's what I'm here for. All the best stuff.
To make sure we use it all on the air all at the same time, so that everybody stares at each other awkwardly for the rest of the show.
So this is the beginning of that like era of like CGI where that becomes like super readily available, and these movies kind of even movies like Death To Smoochy that like don't necessarily have this huge budget. They're not like box office movies, right? Like are capable of using that technology and kind of doing like not just something like an action film or something, but like doing something like Death To Smoochy where it's kind of just like jokes and people are messing around with the green screen. So like it's kind of funny, and there's so much. I didn't think about how much like wiring there is in this movie and how much like how many different set pieces there really are, and like how this
the
is
mad
like, kind
recliner shot with Robin Williams. I had never thought about that. I was like, well, yeah, I guess they would have to like have a special setup to film that, wouldn't they? Like that was actually very interesting. I was like, oh yeah, that was kind of a cool shot, but I wasn't thinking about it in those terms.
So this is the even cooler side of it. This is like the figure skating part of it, and they like hired a world champion figure skater or something to like teach them how to, number one, to be on it, but also to like to teach figure skating a little bit. So this is kind of fascinating to me.
This is the content we crave.
240,000 Christmas lights.
parked in a white zone?
Someone took my wallet.
Danny, I can't stop talking like you.
Went to acting school for that.
Something to say to you. I want to thank you for allowing me to be here.
Get a lot of good footage. I'm getting it.
Nice. Quite the sizzle reel. I like
God,
it.
they make it look like so much fun.
I mean, with that cast, how could it not be?
Good point. Yeah. Well, it kind of makes like Danny DeVito, like this falls right in with his sense of humor. I think he did a great job with it.
Yeah, no, he does a great job directing it. I like that he's in it. 'Cause, you know, he didn't necessarily have to make that choice, but that character is pretty amazing. Kind of as like almost you know, Danny was kind of comparing it almost to like noir in like a weird way, like a noir where there isn't kind of like a main detective or something kind of solving the thing. You know what I mean? So it's interesting that he kind of speaks in that noir dialogue, like his gangster dialogue is like like at the end of it or whatever, when he's trying to get him set up to get killed, he says something like, hold on, he has a line that I wrote down that I really wanted to say. He's like, I'm not talking about Stokes, I'm talking about Mopes. And like, you have to realize that, like, you know, the other one he says is something like, he's like, it doesn't matter if you don't have the show dough or something. And he says it like in this weird, like money in a strange.
Yeah, there was a Harvey Firestein's character, right? Which character said this?
No, it was Danny DeVito.
It was Danny DeVito.
Okay.
Harvey Firestein is in this film, yeah, which is easy.
Who is great, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was comparing it to noir.
Merv Green, right? Yeah.
Yeah. The Merv Green scene the moment that I really like is after they kill Moochie or whatever, like they kill that character Spinner. And he's like, well, we didn't know. There was suddenly like, we didn't know he had a cousin Moochie. They look identical. And he goes, he goes, Moochie or Smoochy is fuchsia. Moochie is burgundy. Don't you?
Yeah, he's all upset about it. Yeah,
These dumb idiots
like
don't
the
know
most-
the difference.
The most Harvey Firestein line to have.
Yeah.
So good.
I by the way, I can't believe we've gone an hour and 6 minutes into this show and haven't talked about how great Catherine Keener is in this, who is generally always
You guys haven't mentioned
on
Catherine
International
Keener yet?
Women's Day too.
I mean, I barely mentioned anything for the first 20 minutes. It's pretty much just Forrest talking to Danny Bessner, but you know.
Oh, okay.
It was a dudes panel, so you know we had to be sexist.
Happy International Women's Day, everyone.
Oh, yeah, God damn it. I was literally about to say, on this, the day of International Women's Day. But, yeah,
I'm sorry for stealing your thunder.
it's okay. It happens all the time on this show.
Oh.
But yeah, she's great at it. I mean, I think Catherine Keener's very consistent. Like she's generally pretty awesome at whatever she is. I don't think I've ever seen anything. There's things that I've seen that she's in that I'm not a fan of, but I'm always a fan of her in it.
Yeah,
I think is a key distinction.
This role is really interesting.
Like think about being John Malkovich, right? Like in the casting, the correct Hollywood casting would be to flip the Cameron Diaz and the Catherine Keener characters, and I love that they did, and I think it's a much stronger movie because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The interesting thing I think about her character in this is that there's so many layers to it, and she has to play all of those layers. Like they do the kind of noir kind of thing too, where she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I've gotten so hardened," like kind of to reference, like, "Well, I guess this hot exterior or whatever, you know, I've put it up."
Right.
So, but she does that, and that peels away, and then of course at the end, you know, her whole
the mean streets of children's television, exactly. Yeah.
So yes, there's that part of it, and then at the end you realize, you know, she's had this long history in children's TV, and she's like slept with all of the different children's show hosts, and she was like a child, which I want to know more about. Like I want to know more about the concept of a children's show groupie. Like that is hysterical, but they kind of just brush past it. And you know, Sheldon's moment of like, you know, like realizing he has to accept her, and this is the way things are, and like that's his like kind of almost well, I guess the end of it is, but it's like that it's Chinatown moment or whatever.
Well, I mean, she admires the artistry, right? That's like kind of what it is, because they like just like when they have the first bonding moment her and the Norton character have is like bonding over like the I forget the name of it, like the old school children's TV character, and they both like know like that they know the dances and they know the songs and whatnot. So she clearly has deep affinity and respect for the art form, but has had her heart broken by like people basically being pieces of crap. Over and over. Of which Robin Williams' character is only the most recent and most egregious of examples.
Is that a noir thing? That's like there's a female character whose ex is kind of a bad guy. Is that a noir theme or not so much?
Yeah.
I feel like I've seen it before, but I can't think of specific
There's
examples.
a great song by Velvet Underground. Listen to it, you'll learn all about it.
Yeah. the first girl I ever like dated when I was like 12 or 13 or something, I remember she played that on guitar at a improv show that I went to, and
wow,
and
we were both like doing like children's improv or whatever. But anyway,
was she doing like in the voice of Elbow or something?
What's children's improv?
Like, it was
but can we back up to the children's improv part of this conversation? Because that fascinating.
No, like it was like
I'm
improv
intrigued.
class, like after school improv classes. That's what I'm trying to say. Like you go after school to and then you put on the show at the end of the thing, and parents like pay a certain amount of money, and you get trained in improv, which I think was kind of just paying for the stage time in the end. But
I was envisioning like the brick wall and like every kid doing their tight five about grape juice boxes or whatever, but maybe I was thinking about that wrong.
You ever notice the straws on grape juice boxes are getting longer?
Just don't make them like they used to.
That kind of brings us to the beginning of this movie, the sting scene, which we didn't even really talk about, where you first kind of realize how underground and weird and kind of venal and like corrupt this world is. Is Robin Williams sitting there at the table, and he's like, "You want your little booger eater on my show?" Which is like the first kind of jarring moment you get after this whole kind of interesting. The first jarring moment is seeing a rhino getting hit by all these things, but like you don't really know what's going on with that, and you get this whole number, and then he's sitting down.
Did you listen to the lyrics of the number?
Which are incredibly ribald,
or amazing, because like I did not catch the first time I watched it the line where he goes, "Some people like to be a catcher, some people like to be a pitcher."
Yeah. Well, the whole song is friends come in all sizes, and he's being followed by a line of little people, which is like this.
It's just, and it's all the innuendos too. It's just great.
I like that the Angelo character, like the little person, is kind of his like partner, I guess, in this, or like I don't know,
his main
sidekick, only
sidekick.
remaining friend of any kind. Yeah,
that character could be not like that character could like conceivably not be a little person. You know what I mean? Like
it's not important to the character that he be. Yeah, exactly. It's just it's in the way of the classic Peter Dinklage roles, like the station agent or something, where it's like it's irrelevant, like the size of the person. Like that could.
It's really the size of the heart, and his heart.
It really is about the size of the heart. You're correct. Yeah.
Well, it's just like all of them like kind of come with the studio. All those like backup characters. All the backup character actors. It's like whichever guy is the star. It's like all of them are the Rhinettes or the Rainbow Randolph friends, or what, I can't remember what they call
them.
There
are a lot less, I think, humiliating costumes under Rainbow Randolph, right? And then they put on the tiny Rhinette suits. Like that's a far more, I think, humiliating experience for that.
But they're working on a better show, so maybe that's a concern, right? Like maybe it's like, oh, but this is a more ethical show, and that guy isn't a piece of crap like the other dude. So
maybe do they
really care? I don't.
Sounds like they're getting paid the same no matter what. Yeah. So
maybe he did. There's a part where he goes, "Yeah, job's a job." He seems very indifferent about it.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, he's still also on the phone with, Well, no, that's when he's talking to Sheldon, I guess, and he's like, "Oh, well, I'm so happy that you're." Yeah. But there's other scenes where he's kind of downplaying it to not destroy Rainbow Randolph, like his entire like ego, which is incredibly fragile. And I think that is why you feel completely like we were talking about this earlier. Why you feel so connected, almost, or not connected, but sorry for Robin Williams' character, as he's like a complete piece of shit. Like there's not a redeeming quality about him. Whatsoever. Like this person is awful. This person
pretty
is
cartoon villain. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just enjoys doing crimes and being evil. Yeah. I mean, that's
Complete with the Wile E. Coyote dance number down the street.
Exactly, which is fantastic, which is very good.
He enjoys
He nails it.
not being gay and doing crimes. Yeah, and throughout this whole movie, he shows so much vulnerability, and like there's these moments that no one else, I don't think anyone else could have done, right? Like he truly believes that Sheldon has taken on this role to fuck him over, and that he's trying to destroy his life, whereas Sheldon doesn't even think about this guy, like hasn't put a thought into him. So there's that really, as he's driving him to the Nazi rally, he's like, oh, I heard all these things about, and he keeps switching the accent, which is a really funny bit. Which is
he does not catch on at all, but it's played for comedy. But yeah, and like like what's the I don't think about you at all. That's like the sort of like, if Ed Norton had more presence of mind to like be assertive and like realize what was happening, we'd be like, I'm thinking about you. Like, why would I be thinking about you?
But he truly believes that this is another corrupt person playing this nice guy role, which presumably from what Nora says throughout it, like there's a lot of these people that start out pretending to be ethical and nice, which is not what you get, the feeling you get from Rainbow Randolph whatsoever.
Well, and so you just bring up an important point that like you're playing the game, the casting a different person for whatever. What if Ed Norton and Robin Williams' roles were reversed? What if
I have a clip that talks about that.
Oh, there you go. Inadvertently with Neutron with the assist inadvertently.
Amazing. Great work, Neutron.
Thank you.
This is Edward Norton talking about originally how he was approached by Danny DeVito to play the Robin Williams role.
Oh,
yes,
fantastic.
I didn't know that, but like
I didn't know that either. I mean, I totally knew it. That's why I set the clip for you. Yeah.
Sweet.
Awesome.
Did he though? It seems like he gave the kid a lot of material before.
That's funny because I had no idea that was a thing. I just was like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if?
No, I know.
I think you go a little something like this.
I didn't think that you queued it up for that reason, and I never knew that until watching that clip last night. I was like, oh shit, like because that's not a movie that really worked.
Well, I did Erica narking on herself, by the way. The thing that gets me is like I think it would be more natural to have those roles switch, right? Have Ed Norton be like quote unquote the bad guy, and have Robin Williams playing the endearing, the more like heartwarming ish, heart on sleeve optimist, and it does I think make it a better movie that is completely flipped.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. It's
they
kind of
did
hard
it
to
through
imagine it
acting.
the other way around.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know why this is the first thing that pops in my head every time I hear Edward Norton's voice in that though. It kind of sounds like SpongeBob. Like he has the SpongeBob voice going. Where I mean, like a more realistic version of it, I guess. But he's doing like the Tom Kenny a little bit. Where
he's like SpongeBob if you Photoshop like a human face on him.
No, the voice, just the voice he's doing, where he has this thing that like I don't know.
Just
there's like
the voice, Andy. Just the voice.
Sorry, I'm visualizing what the voice would look like.
Now I'm envisioning American History X with SpongeBob SquarePants in the lead.
I'm ready.
What year was American History X again?
That was 99, I think.
Okay, yeah. All right.
Yeah,
That's good bit, everybody. Yeah, I'm glad we got through it.
No wonder he was in shape for Smoochy then.
Yeah.
He was
like one of the lines that I was
History
thinking
X.
of with the SpongeBob thing is he's like, let me tell you something. You pop a little bit of this liquid alfalfa in it, blast off time. Like he has this weird thing with his voice that's like up and down that it's cartoonish. I guess that's the only way to describe it. The other thing I think is really funny in that scene is when Danny DeVito sits down when you don't know anything about him and he clearly like has just heard from either like Variety magazine or something, or I mean I don't think it's from Frank Stokes. Like he's heard somewhere along the lines and realized that like Smoochy's the new guy that he can represent, and you can see that they've done this over and over again, right? Like this is a corporation that they just kind of churn out these. It's like they churn out these children's show hosts, break them kind of in a way, right? Like presumably the Buggy whatever, like that character at the end of it. Presumably he was the host before Robin Williams, or at a time, or at least had one of their shows. So like, and then he was broken by a heroin addiction. So it seems like they churn these people out, corrupt them, break them, and it's like a constant thing, and it's always Danny DeVito representing them, and they like kind of split the profits. So like there's this whole system going on that you kind of realize over the course of time, and it's really funny that Sheldon's completely green behind the ears, and so when Danny DeVito says he was like that's the way these network goons operate. Now look, I remember Stokes was trying to score a couple extra points in the merchandising. He said he has a warehouse full of Dickie dolls. Now Frank and I have been friends for years, so I said, okay, cock. And there's his eyes kind of like because he's not used to hearing that kind of language.
Language,
yeah. So he's like, make a long story short, I just walk out of there with a check for $100K, and he's sitting there with his thumb up his ass, and you like get this weird like I think that Sheldon's like completely almost like enamored, like, oh, this is someone who knows how to play the game. Like this is someone who's like, I'm failing at this.
Yeah, I think he knows it's not his strong suit.
Well, he's getting outmaneuvered by Nora, like with some degree of regularity, and like clearly getting owned over and over again. And he knows that's not going to work for him, and means that he's not going to be able to do the kind of show he wants to do because he is very much an idealist. And he almost sees that on some reptilian brain level, like as a means to an end, without understanding the context of what you're doing when you make a deal with somebody like that.
Yeah, kind of like a deal with the devil almost, but I don't know. It's interesting, right? Like you look for somebody who's understands this, but in a world where people are that corrupt and are kind of these weird, either cartoon villains, because it doesn't seem like Randy or Rainbow Randolph. Wow, I can't say anything tonight.
Rainbow Bright, go on.
Rainbow Bright and Randy Rhodes. Yeah,
I'm on 3 hours of sleep, and they've been doing road work outside of my fucking window every day.
Sun was in your eyes. We get it. Go ahead.
So yeah, Rainbow Randolph. Not that I can say things anyway, but Rainbow Randolph as this kind of character is a lot more, I think, kind of Batman villain or like cartoon villain. And these gangsters they have everywhere are kind of noirish or like it's that seedy, like, oh, the seedy underbelly. And like all of it is obviously amped up by a lot, but like in the case of the underworld figures or whatever, like it feels a lot more like a parody almost of a noir film.
Even the lighting on Harvey Firestein, like it's just all done in shadow and with the blinds, the Venetian blinds.
Yeah,
wonderfully shot too.
I feel like it has just a little bit of a feel to, and I think I'm racking my brain. I think Danny DeVito directed Matilda also.
He did.
Okay, thank you. I don't know. I feel like there's like just that little touch of campiness or something that was in that film that I find in this one too.
Yeah,
I wish he'd do more films.
This is definitely really campy.
It's the one where Mara Wilson's like a telekinetic kid or something, right?
Mm-hmm. It's a great story.
Yeah. Oh man, I think I saw that when it came out.
Yeah, I read the book a zillion times as a kid. It was great, but
nice.
But anyway, yeah, I like his directing style, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
and I see the theme.
Another theme that I've wanted to bring up, and this is something I guess I'll throw to Andy to talk about, but the scenes where they're kind of off and no longer what was that look?
What?
No, Conan was like,
no, I was like,
Conan.
oh, it's Andy.
Yeah. Like, oh no, did I make a face?
That's a lot of looks, man.
Like, wait, did I make the wrong catching face?
No, so
it's part of my charm.
I wanted to bring this up with you because I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts on it. The scenes obviously where they're in the children's studio are all in these, even in the offices in the children's studio are these bright colors. And obviously, like the suit is a bright color, and everybody's wearing these bright colors. It's a stage set. I mean, for like any children's show really is like that. But then when you cut to them in other places, they're always kind of a lot more muted. Like there is a lot of juxtaposition, I think. And the first time you really see that is when it goes directly from the Friends Come in All Sizes dance or whatever, and the products or whatever. It cuts right to a restaurant, and the restaurant's dark. And, Robin Williams is no longer wearing his bright rainbow suit, obviously, because it'd be weird to be wearing that in a restaurant. But, he's just in regular clothes, and everything's kind of...
Dr. Conan.
Right here, and I can hear you.
I pointed the wrong way.
Well, we went to dinner, and when you were wearing that big rainbow jacket, I just wanted to hint at it. No, but, so the juxtaposition, I think, between all of those scenes, the behind-the-scenes stuff where they're not in the studio anymore, and the children's show are, incredible, I think.
No, it's that kind of contrast, heightens everything and kind of plays it up, to make the cartoonishness more cartoonish and to make the dark stuff more dark, even though it's also kind of ridiculous at the same time, because the dialogue in those scenes are just so over the top with I got your little booger eater and just the delivery of it, Harvey Firestein just like being the villain, because normally he's just like, I'm Harvey Firestein, and but
is that what he's like? Is that
he says it all the time. He's known for saying it. Yeah.
I mean, it's
I'm not going to go into this movie unless I can see I'm Harvey Firestein at least once. Write it in the script or I'm walking.
It's in my contract. It's in my contract.
But there's a lot more like a musical theater kind of presence that he brings to his characters, which is not in this part, but he's just hamming it up as the complete over the top villain, and the juxtaposition between those bright colors and like the deep shadows really does kind of play up who these characters are and whatnot, and it just it is great how they did that.
Yeah,
Deep Shadows is my favorite Chinese knockoff of Dark Shadows. Actually,
there's also there's the Chinatown reference kind of to like really hammer it home when they find Spinner's body in the rhino suit and they're in the middle of Chinatown. Like that's definitely a reference to.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Oh, and I love the ice skating play that's put on at the end where all of a sudden all the signs are in Chinese.
Yeah, and that whole thing is really funny also because right before that he's being chased by a bunch of Nazis on skates.
As tends to happen.
Yeah, I think Mel Brooks did that too. Hitler on ice.
But watching the clip of oh yeah, he did. But watching the clip of the figure skating part of it, right? Like you really start to understand they had to build these literally what is the spectacle of like ice skating. And it's the same, or those ice shows, I mean, like, and they still do them all the time, like Disney on Ice, Cinderella on Ice, like they have them.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which that's real, by the way. I saw a commercial for it. I'm like, wow. Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, no, Kevin Eastman loved that stuff too.
Breaking Bad on Ice.
On ice. That's always the bit, like the Nuremberg trials on ice.
Personally, I don't see the appeal.
Well,
just making it cold.
It's this really gaudy, style of really gaudy spectacle based, style of entertainment. Like
that was huge around that time too. They were putting everything quote unquote on ice, right? Like it was like that's when they started doing like the Disney films. Everything was whatever it is. Like they had to cash in with like the ice show because the kids love that stuff.
Yeah, Disney Junior, hardcore advertising on.
Yeah. Nickelodeon,
because that was even a couple years later because I didn't have kids when this came out, but a few years later, watching.
Yeah,
Disney
they were conceived at the ice show, weren't they, Andy? Yeah, that's right.
You're right. All the Zamboni.
Yeah,
and I mean it's spectacle really
so romantic.
Conceived on the Zamboni. Let's not let that one fly past. That's pretty good.
They call them Zamboni babies.
It's a whole generation.
Some people were conceived in a Crossfire Hurricane. Some were conceived in a Zamboni. Let's not judge.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So there's this whole, I think, kind of middle class.
It would have been better if your kid had actually been in the background when you had said that. That would have been better. But it was pretty good. I was gonna say it's fine. Moment passed. It's all right.
Oh, your kid is in the background.
Like parents can really start to afford. I mean, they're middle class parents usually, probably upper middle class, at least like mid middle class. You know what I mean? Like they can kind of afford these tickets, and companies like Disney start realizing that they can rake in so much fucking money. Number one, by having the theme parks like Disney World, Disneyland. Nickelodeon started making some of those around this time too, like with like characters like SpongeBob and stuff, and they started making them in like minor cities. Like every little region had like you could come to this this Nickelodeon slime park or something. Like on the other side of that,
It's disgusting.
they had those. I'm not even kidding. When I went to
I
California,
believe
when I was
you.
a kid,
Of course they do. Yeah, like I don't think she was doubting you. She was laughing at the absurdity of it.
but they also have.
No, I will show you. I'll show you pictures. Okay, we believe you.
Sounds like a personal nightmare for me. Is all that's. But I guess some people are into some stuff, you know.
So they also have.
It was my personal Holocaust, actually, the slime theme park. But
Sorry, Forrest, you were saying.
hey, man, we're making up for lost time. It was, first part of the show was basically him and Danny talking for half of it. It was great.
Oh.
Well, you know what? When I'm not on the show, it's me listening to Danny on American Prestige Podcast.
That's right.
I'll
Turn this off and go listen to that.
No. No. So there's. It's like kind of expecting. Kids aren't going to really understand like the opera or Broadway or anything like that. Like, what can we
put it
sell?
on ice and they get it? It's on ice. I understand.
Romeo and Juliet on ice. No, but like they will want to drag their parents to go see these really gaudy, over the top shows where their favorite characters are on ice, and that kind of becomes these giant spectacles. And it's really funny to kind of set a scene where that Smoochy's probably going to get shot or someone's going to get shot, and to have Buggy Bump, whatever his name, like to have him sitting on top of the thing, you know what I mean, like in the background of it, like over it or whatever, nodding out on fucking strung out as fuck, like with his fucking giant like sniper rifle or whatever, like, and in this huge spectacle that already people don't notice anything. Like if you have the laser beam, like they assume, oh, that's one of the lights that are in this giant palace of spectacle anyway. So it's like. It's almost like at the end of Naked Gun where they do everything through the the baseball field, but like 20 years later they're doing it through like this giant ice show, and there's no reason for it. It's terribly wasteful to like build these things. You know what I mean? Like there's so many of them coming around this time. Like it's
well,
just,
there is a reason for it. It's money because people.
Yeah, but I'm saying like there's no.
Money. That's the reason.
Yeah. No, I mean
but that goes back to the ethical capitalism thing you're talking about too, right? About how like the whole thing with Ed Norton's character is like no, well, we want it, it needs to be like pure. It needs to be like we need to be making money on this and not be exploitive about it. And the idea of like the ice show is sort of like that's sort of the ultimate like punchline for the joke around that time, because that was sort of the thing of like, wow, everything's got an ice show now. Like what else are they gonna put on ice?
It's like every company's got a seltzer now.
Exactly. I was drinking that stuff. Yeah, it is on ice.
White Claw on ice.
I was drinking that stuff way before it was trendy, and I'll be drinking it way long after it is. Regular seltzer, not White Claw. Thank you.
So I find
except for White Claw becomes a sponsor of Moving Extravaganza, which I'll drink them gladly.
Ain't no laws when you're drinking claws. See, we've said it already. You ever see that? There's a video of this kid that was like he made a video and White Claw told him to take it down, which is hilarious because so many people learned about White Claw from this kid's videos, and he's driving a car and he's like, "Ain't no laws when you're drinking claws, baby." And he's like,
I can see where they might want that taken down, but that also sounds hilarious at the same time.
Yeah.
We maybe don't want that to be representing our product, but thank you. But take it down immediately, or we'll litigate.
But in like summer 2019 or something, everybody was yelling that, and like, so much. They probably did so much, so much merchandising for White Claw as a company, but at the same time, they're like, "Oh man, you're like in the car for part of it," and like
ethical concerns. Maybe people should not be drinking and driving. I don't know.
Maybe
they shouldn't be. Yes, that's the exact quote.
By the way, another line that I really like, Sheldon spinning the chamber of the gun, and he goes, "You know what the song says? We all have our bad days."
When you're drinking and driving,
yeah,
with White Claws.
But there was no laws. I was drinking a claw.
Exactly. Everyone knows it.
It's convenient. There are no laws when you're drinking and driving.
It's like the first rule of shotgun.
Yeah.
You must give up the seat.
But yeah,
or like was you can't legally be arrested in that one area between Montana and Idaho because it's not a state. You guys familiar with that concept? There's a part of Yellowstone that is like between Idaho and Montana, and apparently there's a working theory that's like 3 or 4 mile square area that because it is not legally any part of any state and is not in fact federal land at the same time, it's like a paradox that means that no laws apply. You can legally murder people there.
It's this not is federal land?
I'm not making this. No, it's not technically federal land, and it's not technically state land either. Like it's just weird. It's
that happened in the town I was growing up in Texas. Was a dry county, which means no alcohol could be sold. Mm-hmm. And but because there were parts of the county that were unincorporated, there was a honky tonk just over the border where they had an open, they had a bar and whatever, the dance floor. And that's where everybody went to party.
Really tore up that dance floor with their boots and
line dancing like
line
hell.
Dance, yeah.
I guess I'll take credit for that derivation, but yeah, that zone between look it up. In fact, I think they actually use as the basis for like one of these like murder shows that they couldn't prosecute because is it a federal prosecution or is it in the state of Montana or state of Idaho? Well, no, really, because blah blah blah. And that's like suddenly onto like Star Trek ethical concerns about violating the Prime Directive.
Yeah. Someone pointed this out to me on Twitter that this movie is kind of cut in half, right? Like the first half is hilarious, but it's like 2 different halves of a movie, and it kind of it kind of cuts in half. I guess after the whole Nazi thing, I'm trying to see if there's other scenes that I would throw in there, but I think like when Moochie gets killed, kind of right, and then the action kind of heats up for the second half of the movie. And it feels like
a lot for Moochie.
He was so excited to go back to the Coliseum too.
I wonder how much direction that guy had versus how much he created that character, because holy crap, it's hard to imagine somebody being able to direct someone to do what he did with that character, just like so over the top.
Yeah, maybe just give like some real world examples, I guess you could give.
I guess, yeah.
That's a rough sport.
I think this is the last kind of clip I have, which I think this is where Ron Williams says it. He says something like, "What's this character?" And Danny DeVito said, "I don't know. You're playing him."
Fantastic.
So
what every actor yearns to hear.
I'm pretty sure that's this clip.
I went and saw the movie Death to Smoochy, and I really enjoyed it. It's fantastic. It's very entertaining, very funny. You're fantastic in it as well.
It's a wonderful kind of nasty movie, directed by people going, really?
But it's like it was so great to see you in this kind of a part.
Oh yeah, and it's because it's Danny DeVito, who is a nasty, funny man, basically a troll without a bridge, He hits it hard. And this is kind of like, if Brian De Palma directed Barney, I shoot you, you shoot.
And tell people what the story is.
It's also written by one of your former writers.
A great guy, a very funny guy, Adam Resnick.
Yes, sir.
Worked with us for many years.
Many years.
Writing film.
Wrote a movie that you did.
That's right.
Yes.
Cabin Boy.
Yes!
Thank you. This guy is so funny and so entertaining to be around, and his attitude is so great. If he called up and said, "We're doing Cabin Boy 2, would you like to join us?" I'd say, "Sure, I'm there. Count me in."
And what are the odds of them doing Cabin Boy?
Well, I don't know that.
You and me in Return to Club Paradise. It's like, we're going back, and this time without the ganja.
Yeah. So
that was like, ooh.
Tell people what the story is.
The story is basically about the darker side of children's television. And people going, really? I play a kiddie show host, Rainbow Randolph, who is like if Liberace had a child with Mr. Rogers. And that, I don't know, a lot of people going, maybe. If Michael Jackson could be a best man. And then I lose my job, and then they hire Ed Norton, who's this totally politically correct, wonderful, sweet character who is basically a rhino. I mean, he dresses as the rhino, and he hosts the children's show, and I do anything in my power to destroy him.
Right. When you were on top as the kid show host, you were deeply corrupt.
Deeply corrupt, yes. A lot of payola. I was there. I'd put any kid in the front for $1, you know. Just like you did with those people right there.
Right. Well, we got to make ends meet.
I saw that lady.
I love him so much. Oh my god.
I guess it wasn't that clip where he was talking about that, but he goes on to roast that lady, and he's like, there's no way you got in here without paying, and then he's like, or something, and then he's like, she's like, oh my, they're gonna let me stay or something. And those,
right.
I saw Vance Gilbert do that once to somebody in the audience who's just like, he gets up there and he's like, I love playing music to the seas of white people, and this woman just starts screaming like crazy, and he's like, and like there's that woman over there who's way too excited for this. She ain't black, but with that curly hair, I think she thinks she's black.
I mean, comedians always play to the audience, but it's funny when it's on something like David Letterman.
Yes.
Where, you know, you don't usually see that. It's not really like stand-up.
Yeah, you don't see a lot of crowd work on
like late night talk show.
Bring that crowd work for late night talk shows.
We have comedians in this show. Let's give them our advice.
We've lost the master now. Yeah.
Like, please, podcasters and musicians, tell me what I should do with my comedy. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's really interesting to see him kind of doing that rapid fire delivery on Letterman, and then to hear Edward Norton have talked about how he was kind of like a master technician, because it feels like a lot of what he does is improv, and it's not, but like some of it definitely is, but like it always feels like he's just coming up, like even in movies, it feels like he's just kind of coming up with these things as he goes along. And I'm sure he kind of workshops scripts that are already done. He also was a stand-up comedian, and he went back to it around this time, I guess, and started like playing, you know, I mean, when it's a celebrity stand-up comedian, like going back to it, like you're like, all right, how much really is it, you know, whatever. But he talks about it for the first 15 minutes of this, and then talks about Death to Smoochy for the last, I don't know, like 30 seconds, 2 minutes, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's, you know, there's that, I think it's a 2-part documentary on Robin Williams. I forget what it's called, but we saw that like last year. I thought it was really good. You know, he's an interesting cat, obviously plagued by, severe, deep depression, but like, you know, when he was, it's not the manic parts you got to worry about, right?
Yeah, he was bipolar, but when he actually ended up committing suicide, he had, and this kind of takes it down a lot, but what they found out after the fact is that he had Lewy body dementia, and his brain was actually pretty eroded away. He was going back and forth to doctors for 2 years, and the doctor was like, look, we can tell that there's been like damage, like it's degenerating, but we don't know what it is. So
you are going to become something that is not who you are anymore, basically.
Wow.
And so he finally decided, before it got too bad, he was starting to lose control of his motor skills to commit suicide. But it gets, a lot of people talk about kind of him as like an example of depression, and he was like, definitely. I mean, he was an addict that was bipolar, but that didn't seem like that was what led him towards that suicide route. Like, it's not. I don't think that talking about it that way is necessarily like helpful to people, because it's not like he was hiding that pain. It's that, you know, by the time he actually did commit suicide, like, it was just pain that had degenerated through him so much that there wasn't going to be, like, you can't do anything for dementia. Like,
same thing happened with the great Terry Pratchett, who was actually very open about that he was going to commit suicide whenever his dementia got to a point where he couldn't deal with it anymore.
I mean, why wouldn't you? In some ways, like, it logically makes sense that because if you are someone that, like, your brain is so much of who you are, right? Like,
and he's like spent the last several years of his life. He actually passed away of natural causes, but he did spend the last several years of his life like touring everywhere and just meeting all of his fans and basically publicly mourning his own passing before he had a chance to. And was very open about it.
Wow.
I got to see him speak for an hour, and it was incredible just to hear him like just be so frank about, you know, death and whatnot. So when he died, it was almost a celebration. Still sad because he was great. Discworld books, fantastic. Read them. But you know, I kind of wish Robin Williams was able to actually talk openly about like why he did it, because I think that's important.
Yeah. Well, his wife was still alive, and she did, and she was like, you know, they did the autopsy, and they're like,
But nobody listens to her.
No, but so they did the autopsy, and they were like, oh, this is Lewy body dementia. Like, by the way, like that is a diagnosis. So it's kind of this incredibly bittersweet moment where it's like, oh wow, he really was suffering through this. Like, he didn't do this for, you know, like whatever reasons. Like, he wasn't. He was right that he was degenerating, but like to know that after the fact. I mean, they wouldn't have been able to do anything about it anyway, though. It's like we don't understand very much about how brains and nervous systems and everything work. Like, we're actually for everything we've come up with like viruses, like, you know, fighting them, like sickness in general, all these different things. Like, that's something that has barely been delved into. So you know, pour one out for the man himself.
Everyone, look under your seat. You'll find your Kool-Aid that you can then drink at the end of the episode.
I just want to shout out
to Magic Rocket Chip.
I'll go in as the away team. Erica, hit it.
Oh, I was just gonna shout out to Fern Gully. Just like this movie that he did.
Oh yeah, he wasn't. Yeah.
He did a voice in that when I was very little. I was like, I think that was one of the first things that I was like, oh, Robin Williams, like, recognized him for. Even because I wasn't old enough for Mork and Mindy, like I would see reruns of it here and there, but like I don't think I really got who he was until that movie. And then, you know, he did Aladdin, and then like all.
What is that movie about? Like a lizard discovers the power of recycling or something? What is that about? I don't remember anything about it. I remember.
Well, okay, it has been a very long time since I've seen it, but
yeah.
It's
been a while since you've seen this movie, and you're talking about that one too.
Okay.
I coaxed her on, people. I coaxed her on.
No, it's a climate change movie.
It's about like forest destruction.
I know it's not about a lizard discovering the power of recycling.
It's some guy who I guess is doing like, it's not construction work exactly. They're like cutting down trees, but I guess it's in the like with construction in mind or whatever of buildings or something. And he gets shrunk down somehow, and then he's the same size as the forest fairies, and there's a bat who's friends with the fairy.
Did he beat their ass with a bat? Oh no, a bat like an animal. Oh.
Yeah, Robin Williams' character is a bat.
Ah, gotcha. Okay, cool.
And he's on fire the whole time, just like Robin Williams. Yeah. You know, true to form. Anyway, I was talking to somebody about it yesterday, which is why it's in my mind.
There's like fairies in it too. Like, you know, it's that kind of concept that like, oh, we don't actually know what's happening in the, you know, the rainforest. Like,
we don't know what we're cutting down and destroying exactly.
Yeah, totally.
And like the one place that magic is really left is not in these like huge. Because one of the scenes I remember is like the trees getting cut down. These huge industrial machines that are like incredibly inhuman and like just, you know, robotic and going through like these things, and you can see like this hell that's been created from. Like all these trees getting cut down, and it's like, oh well, the one place the magic was really is the rainforest, and now we're kind of cutting through it, and we'll never really know that. I don't know. I watched it a couple times as a kid.
We need to force Bolsonaro to watch that movie.
Bolsonaro. No, there's
Bolsonaro.
All right, so I guess, you know, we've talked through this movie. You know, Conan's got a Zamboni conceive.
I gotta go conceive on a Zamboni. Sorry.
He didn't live till he conceived on a Zamboni.
So I hear.
But starting with Erica, so final thoughts.
My thought is I love dark comedies, and this one is just very top notch. Like, I mean, all the nuance in it, the contrast of the bright colors and the dark, the noir elements. I mean, everything you guys said, I really love. I mean, just it all comes together so nicely. And it's got a lot of actors that I really like too. So, and I think it's nice that Harvey, what's his last name? Firestein,
yes.
Yeah, he and Robin Williams were in Mrs. Doubtfire together. and they got to like reunite in this one.
Forgot about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's been so long since I've seen Mrs. Doubtfire. That's such a strange fucking movie.
It's weird. So
They tried to
90s.
remake it. They tried to remake it with like a bunch of different other ways. There's actually I don't remember if it was a Hong Kong version. I think it's a Hong Kong remake of Mrs. Doubtfire. That's amazing.
Okay. That's intriguing.
Really, really amazing. I'll look up what it's called and then put it in like the show notes. It's one of the.
It sounds like you're channeling Andy right now. That you're pulling this out of nowhere.
I'm like, dang, I haven't heard of this. I want to see this now.
Especially Asian cinema. Yeah.
But moving on, Conan. Final thoughts.
I think this is a good movie. I think it's very funny. It's so very much a product of its time. But I think it's a very funny black comedy that's stylistically very rich. There's a lot to like here. I think that it's maybe like I said, I would go with it's a notch or two away from being really great. But Andy's also correct in the fact that it's a notch or two from falling apart as well. But I kind of love that. It's a highly watchable movie. If this was a movie, for some reason, this movie never would come on cable. But if this movie accidentally came on cable, I'd be like, oh hell yeah, let's throw this on while I whatever wrap T-shirts or something. Yeah, great. That's a Smoochy. Let's do it. I don't have to think too hard about it. Get to laugh at the funny parts and be like, oh yeah, I forgot this character existed. It's good, and I'm glad that based on what I saw with the Letterboxd reviews, that it feels like people are kind of discovering this on their own time. Because I think it was a victim of poor timing. Because there's certainly movies that are a lot worse than this that are remembered very fondly and maybe shouldn't be. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But I dig it. It's a good movie. It's funny. I'm glad we did it. And I probably would not ever have suggested doing it. So I'm glad Bessner did.
The thought that really went into it, I feel like, doesn't.
It is thoughtful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From now.
And it's a deep satire. And the only thing I can think of is remotely close to, it's not that close. It was like Shakes the Clown or something, right? Where it's just taking like this whole.
Also with Robin Williams.
Again, yeah, where the mimes versus clowns, and like you're like, oh, what would that look like? Like it's kind of taking something you wouldn't expect and recontextualizing it to petty mundane beefs and cattiness.
People forget about it, but that was the worst gang war that Coney Island ever saw. Mimes and clowns.
Mimes and clowns.
Most people won't talk about it. They won't tell
They're trying
you.
to keep the real history away. They're talking about more and more. Yes, exactly.
All right, we got 3 minutes before Conan has to go. Andy, let's hear some rapid fire final thoughts.
Rapid fire, just really quickly. This movie reminded me very much of David Grover, who passed away very recently at the age of 69.
David Graeber.
So on our 69th episode, I kind of want to dedicate it to him. He was a musician, children's performer, and he used to play with Arlo Guthrie back in the day.
I thought you were talking about someone else that David Graeber passed away recently, and I thought that's
David Grover.
I know
he passed away back in November.
Grover from Sesame Street?
Yes, no, David Grover. He was he was like one of those like regional people that and honestly he toured the country, to be honest with you. He knew me because I worked at Radio Shack and would come in regularly. And this right around when this movie came out. And so this movie always kind of makes me think about the time my car broke down. I was in the middle of nowhere where there's no cell signal. I walked to the first door I could find, and it was David Grover's house. And he was like dressed only in a bathrobe. And I had let me use his phone because my car broke down, and I had to trudge like through waist deep snow to get to his doorstep.
Wow.
And it turns out he was a sweet transvestite from transsexual Transylvania.
No, but this movie makes me think back of like all what could have been going on with those groupies in this movie. So there you have it, folks. There's your groupie story.
Yeah, indeed. There you have it.
All right. So my two lines
work,
that I wanted
Andy.
to pull. There's 2 lines that I wanted to pull. The first one is nobody referenced it. You okay? And he goes, I don't know. I'm kind of fucked up in general, so it's hard to gauge. That's if you want to say something.
I had that as one of the Letterboxd one-liners, but I thought for sure it would be referenced. I was like, nah, someone's going to reference that. I forgot about it myself. So
it's extremely relatable.
And especially right now too. And my final one is, what are you going to do? Shoot me? That's not very Smoochy-like behavior.